You know who else is not hot? The A's and their relocation efforts.
Yeah, it's muddy.
But it's hot here in Sacramento because they visited yesterday. And unless there was another John, Dave, and Sarah, and maybe wouldn't that be funny if they weren't here and it was just like some group from a charity? But I don't think that's the case. Look, there are people you follow for the A's relocation saga, but none more than our friend Casey Pratt from ABC 7 of the Bay Area. Good morning, Casey. It's Dave. It's Jason. How are you?
Gentlemen, I can tell you for sure they were here, so it wasn't some other group of random people. The clown car pulled up. It's hard to miss it.
And they all got out together.
Yeah.
All in one car, yes.
We have had a robust conversation here on social media. I know you've been following that over the last couple of days, Casey. We had a conversation on the show earlier, and, you know, I understand the sides, and I even posted that yesterday, the conflict, well, they're going to leave anyway, so why not showcase Sacramento? Why not give 3 more? By the way, before I start yammering, Casey, am I correct in assuming that this wouldn't probably just be a 2025 thing? They also need 26 and 27, so aren't we actually probably talking about 3 years, whether it's here, Salt Lake City, or whatever? Do I have that right?
Yeah, their lease expires at the end of this season. Right. They haven't even demolished the Tropicana yet. I mean, they're not going to have a new ballpark till 2028, and in the best case scenario, and there's no indication they even have financing lined up in Vegas. So, I mean, they'd have to demolish the Trop, clear the site before they can even start construction on the ballpark. And last time I checked, the Trop is fully up and running, and there's no indication that it's getting torn down yet. So, yeah, they got a lot of work ahead of them. So this could be a 3-year solution. Well, that's why they're looking at all these places.
Well, one of the things, anyone who's ever been in a debate class or anything like it is they ask somebody who firmly believes one way to argue the other side. I'm not going to do that with you. Let me just ask you this. If you are speaking, you are speaking to the city of Sacramento, why should or shouldn't, whichever way you go, and I think I know, why should or shouldn't Sacramento welcome the A's for 3 years?
Well, let me first say this. I don't want to tell anybody how to enjoy something they love. And I know there's a lot of A's fans in Sacramento. And if this is your last opportunity to see the A's, and heck, it's in your own town, cool, good for you. But I think that most educated fans out in Sacramento would know what you all went through with the Kings and what it would have meant if some other town granted the Kings owner amnesty in an effort to get all the way to Seattle. Right? Like if that would have driven the wrench between you guys staying there or leaving, I don't think anybody would have been in favor of it out there. So I think that's what's happening with Oakland. There's a situation here where I think it's pretty clear that somebody like Joe Lacob would buy the A's and keep them in the Bay Area, and they'd be far more successful than whatever this current ownership group is doing. If they run out of options, they could be forced to sell. Right now, granting them amnesty in Sacramento or Salt Lake City or anywhere else really just ensures that they're going to end up in Las Vegas. And so really what that does is it takes all the efforts, all the passion, everything that A's fans have done to fight back against this, and it just undercuts them completely. Furthermore, it undercuts the city of Oakland, where if the A's did stay at the Coliseum for 2025 through 2028, they'd actually have some leverage to maybe ask for expansion, ask to keep the team name and colors, or at least just get something out of this raw deal. But in playing in Sacramento, Salt Lake City, wherever they end up, it undercuts the city of Oakland. It undercuts the A's fans that have fought so hard. And obviously many of the Kings fans are also A's fans that have been involved in this.
Casey, I guess on that follow-up on the running out of options possibility for the A's and John Fisher, where are we? What percentage of that do you think is even likely?
I guess it really just depends what happens. There's still so many things that have yet to unfold. Like, can they finance this ballpark? I mean, they just had a Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting on Thursday. They didn't even mention, like, the A's. They weren't on the agenda. They said, oh, we'll talk about them next time. It's like, come on. There's just so much that still needs to go down. If they get a referendum on the ballot in Nevada, I mean, that could totally take away their financing. So there are a lot of issues forthcoming here that they have to find a way to overcome, one of which, the most pressing, is where they play in 2025. So helping them take issues off the table isn't exactly the solution to the problem here. in Northern California.
Casey Pratt joining us. Casey, I came out earlier today and said I understand all the reasons why. I could make a great case as to why this would be good for the city of Sacramento. And to be honest, it would be good for the city of Sacramento. I ethically can't support it. I for a lot of the reasons you outlined, but one reason I didn't put out there is maybe this is just the Kings relocation in me, but I can't shake the idea that because John Fisher pretty much blows up anything he touches, I can't shake the idea that the rumors of the death of Oakland are a bit exaggerated, and that there still is, much like the Kings had a done deal with the Ballmer group in Seattle, and it failed. I can't shake the idea that there still is a zigzaggy but clear path to the A's staying in Oakland.
Yeah, I think you saw it firsthand. I mean, you guys out there saw it very, very up close and personal. The Kings were done. I mean, I remember seeing people crying on the final Kings broadcast and just being like shook by it. And here they are, still in Sacramento. So I think that you're looking at it correctly for sure. And again, I think maybe it could be good for Sacramento in some ways, but at the same time, then, I had this argument with Salt Lake City fans last night because I thought I was ripping on Salt Lake City. And I wasn't. I was just saying that if you put the A's in Sacramento or Salt Lake City and try to spin it as some kind of like audition for becoming a Major League Baseball city, it's totally bunk reasoning, because then they're going to say, oh, well, you guys didn't show up in droves to see the team with the lowest payroll and the worst record in baseball and the worst ownership group in baseball. You didn't show up in droves to see this traveling circus. So maybe you don't belong in the Major League Baseball conversation anymore. It's almost like they're saying you have to show up and buy the heck out of these tickets for the worst product we got. Otherwise, you don't belong in this game. And I just think they're taking advantage of these markets in this search. And it's just gross.
Talk with Casey Pratt here about the future of the A's. The other thing that's out there, Casey, and you could probably explain it much better, but from what I'm reading and looking at stuff with the regional sports network logistics, if the A's are to stay in the Bay, there's some guaranteed money there. Kind of where are we? You can explain it. What's going on there? And if they did try Sacramento or Salt Lake or somewhere outside of the Bay Area, what kind of financial impact would that have on the A's?
Well, the A's themselves are claiming that they're losing $40 million a year while trying to secure a loan in Las Vegas. I don't know any lenders lining up to loan people money that say they're losing $40 million a year.
And by the way, Casey, sorry to interrupt, but also they're bribing lawmakers. Am I wrong?
That's legal, guys. That's perfectly legal.
Over what? Well, it was disclosed. What isn't it like? Was $130,000 to lawmakers in Nevada? Am I wrong?
Just the legislature alone, okay. 45 donations totaling $112,000 to get to yes. So yeah, while those are perfectly legal campaign contributions, it's pretty obvious what's going on there.
Right.
And so yeah. So now back to the original point. That they're losing money like crazy. So if that's the case, you're not going to walk away from the $60 million a year you're getting on your TV deal. You're just not. So I don't know where the logic is there. Now, this I'm going to say in defense of Sacramento, and the original reporting from John Shea, and I don't have any indication to believe he's wrong, he's one of the best in the game, is that if they go to Sacramento, they could be outside of their TV deal because it's not in the Bay Area. But I would argue that A's games air in Sacramento, and they are a part of the A's territory. So I don't know why that would mean they would lose that money, but that apparently is the case. And believe me, guys, NBC Sports California would jump at the opportunity to get out of paying $60 million a year for the team in baseball that has amongst the lowest ratings out there. So, yeah, if they're going to mess around with that TV deal, they're going to get out of it as quickly as humanly possible on the television side, and that's going to hurt them. So now you're losing $100 million a year. How's that going to get you alone?
Casey Pratt joining us as we run out of time here. Casey, I got to ask, let's go back to Joe Lacob, because Kings fans will also remember the term whale, and it was always it was Ron Burkle, it was Vivek Ranadive, it was Mark Mastrov, and finally Vivek was the one that emerged along with the ownership group. And Joe Lake, there is something enticing, there is something romantic about the White Knight stepping in and saving the day in the fairy tale. I'll ask you a two-parter. Number one, how real do you believe Joe Lacob's interest in buying the team is? Is that a real thing? And then secondly, Joe Lacob, if this is for real, could incredibly energize the A's in Oakland mandate, if you will, by just coming out and making a simple statement. We respect the process and John Fisher. However, if the team were to become available, we would definitely be interested in purchasing it and would be absolutely open to conversations in buying the Oakland A's. Something polite and respectful. Number one, is it real? Number two, why doesn't he make a statement?
Number one, 100% real. Number two, he has several different times come out and said that he would have interest in buying the team. The issue is, well, right now the Warriors are a bit busy. They're dealing with tragedy, and the team is obviously not performing up to their standards. But so he has made several statements. He has said several times that he'd be interested if the team were for sale, but he's also said, and it's the same thing we've all said, the team is unequivocally not for sale. You just can't buy something that isn't for sale, unless, of course, Fisher strikes out, which is the whole point of talking about why we shouldn't be encouraging granting amnesty in Sacramento. But he has said that. The issue too, though, is you cannot come out and piss off Major League Baseball if you ever want to be a Major League Baseball owner.
Yeah.
You have to say it very carefully, very politely, and not make a whole scene about it. So that's why you don't see like these massive headlines. But he has said multiple times he is interested, including very recently.
Well, and as we wrap up, that's the ultimate strategy. In a perfect world, everyone blocks the A's, including Las Vegas, which steps up and does the ethical thing to the point where the A's have nowhere to go. And then ultimately John Fisher sells the team because it's untenable in Oakland, or he makes the stadium deal, right?
Yeah, and, that could still result in a team being in Las Vegas, and one that isn't owned by John Fisher, one that's owned by, people that actually live in Las Vegas.
Casey Pratt, ABC7. Follow him on Twitter for all the latest scoops and A's updates as his saga continues and now has bled into the city of Sacramento. Appreciate your time, Casey, as always. Always good to talk to you on and off the air, and we'll talk soon.
No doubt. Love you guys. And Sacramento is a pro sports market, but you don't want this team.
Not that way, right?
Exactly.
All right. See you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.